Welcome to this lesson. My name is Michelle. In this lesson, we are going to learn some very interesting tips about learning English. I'm sure you've seen so many lessons on YouTube, and maybe you've also attended some lessons in the classroom and you've learned multiple ways of learning English. Everyone has something different to suggest. But in this lesson, I've decided to reveal my own personal English learning hacks that you can apply to learn English. Of course, you know that English is so important. Over 2 billion people use English to communicate with each other, and over 1 billion people can speak English fluently. No wonder you can also be one of them. So please keep watching to learn the best tips to learn English. So the first very useful tip that I have for you is focus on your learning system rather than on your goals. What are goals? They are wishes actually, and there is no way of achieving them without an organized learning system. But what do I mean by a learning system? So a learning system is a dedicated number of hours that you decide to spend every week to learn English. But there should be some organization in this learning system. So maybe 1 week you want to focus on fluency and speaking, and the next week you want to focus on grammar. Maybe the third week in the month you want to focus on listening skills or reading skills, and the last week writing skills. This is going to evenly distribute your time while learning, because it's very important to focus on the learning system more than the goals, because this is the correct way to achieve your aims. Of course, if you say that, I want to achieve the B2 level in English and write the IELTS exam, that's just a goal. What you need is a learning system and a dedicated number of hours that you want to spend. So do some classroom learning, but other than that, make sure you do your homework and do some fun activities as well, like watching your favorite TV show in English or maybe listening to your favorite song. So make sure you have an organized learning system and not just wishes or goals. Active beats passive, and we all know that. And this is the second tip that you must follow to learn English better. So basically, you know about what are productive skills and what are receptive skills. Receptive skills are reading and listening, where you receive information, and productive skills are writing and speaking, where you produce the language. So it's very important that you be an active learner and not just a passive learner. I'm sure you're already listening and reading English, but when it comes to producing English, most of us are very hesitant because we are worried about the fact that whether we are correct or not. But actually, you don't have to worry about it. There are certain things that you can do to learn English that can really help you to be an active learner, but there are also things that can demotivate your learning process, and that could be maybe you listen to BBC every day for 15 minutes, but then you switch it off. So what's the whole reason for listening to it? Because you're not producing anything. You're receiving information, but you're producing nothing. It would be much better if you give yourself a task after watching BBC for maybe half an hour. So maybe you want to summarize the news that you've heard. Maybe you want to write it or share the news that you've heard with any of your friend or somebody you know. That will help you produce the language. Or if you're following a discussion in the classroom and it's like a group discussion, but you're not participating, and instead you're thinking about a date later in the day that you have to go on. So that's really bad. It's important that you participate in all the classroom discussions, and maybe if the discussion is about New Year resolutions, you sure want to find out about your friend's New Year resolution and participate in the discussion so that you're an active learner and not a passive learner. So make sure that you're very active while learning English and don't focus only on passive learning. The third hack that I have for you to learn English is that you focus on fluency first. Yes, you focus on speaking first before worrying too much about grammar. Because if you don't speak, you do not learn, and this fact is 100% true for English. So it's important that you focus on your fluency because that makes you feel more self-assured and confident about learning English. And importantly, if you've been away from the game or if you've been out of the game, that is if you've not been speaking English for a while, then you must start by interacting with the people around you and starting to speak English again. You know what? Speaking English is more like cooking a meal, where fluency is the raw material. So if you don't have the raw material, you cannot add other ingredients. But if you have the raw material, that is fluency, you can think about adding other ingredients like vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. Of course, not salt. I'm sure you don't want salt with your gerunds. So if you want to learn English, start with fluency and start with speaking. Learning English is a bit like learning how to dance. Yes, and that's the fourth tip that I have for you. So you know what? When I started learning salsa, my teachers could have just sat in an office or in a classroom and they could have given me a lecture for 90 minutes about dance. But that's not what they did. Instead, they taught me how to dance. So right from the start, the lesson was very interactive and I was connecting with my teacher. But why was it important for me to start dancing in the classroom? My teacher made sure that I was dancing and not sitting in one corner and that I was participating regularly because my teacher wanted to find out what was my level. Had I not been dancing, she would not have known my level of talent. The same way, if you're not participating in your English language classes, then possibly it'll be very hard for your teacher to find out your level of the language. And maybe if they start the book on page 1 that you're reading, maybe you don't even need that. Maybe you're already at page 35, but how will your teacher know that? For her to know this, you need to start speaking English so that she gets to know your level and that she can give you the correct guidance right from where you need it. So please speak more English in your classroom because it's just like learning how to dance. Think of yourself as a language detective. Yes, this is the fifth learning tip that I have for you to learn English. What do you mean by being a language detective? Who is a language detective? Well, observing and noticing is still very important. So that's why you should hear your teacher very carefully in the classroom or maybe while watching a YouTube video like mine. You must hear me carefully and look for words that you can steal or maybe verbs or phrases that you can steal from me and use for your daily interactions. So maybe the phrases that I or your teacher uses to talk about their weekend, maybe they have some really cool phrases that you can use to talk about your weekend to your friends. Or what about their grammar pattern? Maybe you can notice a grammar pattern that your teacher uses. And how about linking words? You know, they're really easy to catch. Words like, you know, how about it, well, okay. All these words are really easy to catch and you can use them to talk in your everyday English. They will be really, really helpful. So be a language detective and steal these phrases from your teachers for your usage. Do you see learning English as a cost or as an investment? If you don't have an answer to it, then let me answer it for you. Learning English is an investment in yourself. So even if you're spending some extra money to learn English, it's all right. You should be proud of it. Maybe you're also consuming some extra bandwidth to learn English from me. Don't worry about it. You're using your time and money at just the right place. So make sure that you consider English as an investment. You consider learning English as an investment and not as a cost, because it has the potential to make you the person you want to be. It will be the bridge from who you are today to the person you want to be tomorrow. It will help you experience new cultures, new people, and new relationships. Surely learning English includes a lot of growth as a person, and it will also get you new job opportunities. So learning English is an investment and not a cost. Here we are at the end of this lesson, where I've shared with you some interesting hacks that you can apply to learn English. English is the lingua